This is a Fox News alert. The president is about to leave his hotel in Hanoi, Vietnam, to meet with Kim Jong Un for their second summit. The White House wants to remain focused on the summit in Vietnam, but it would be foolish to think they have paid no attention to the testimony before Congress today of Michael Cohen. How is the administration reacting to all that has happened here in Washington? Special report host Bret Baier is in Hanoi tonight, but following everything that's happening here, and he's here to tell us. Hey, Bret.
Hey, Tucker.
So how are the traveling White House press people responding to what we've been watching?
Well, they're paying attention, obviously, to the Michael Cohen hearing. Obviously watched it a lot. We didn't get a lot from the White House in reaction. Jay Sekulow put out a statement saying that one element of the testimony was completely wrong. No full tweet from the president other than retweeting what he retweeted before. Our best inclination about the president's view of all of this was a statement from Senator Lindsey Graham, in which he said he had a phone call with President Trump, and he said he was kind of angry that there was this split screen of the Hanoi, North Korea-U.S. summit and Michael Cohen's testimony. As you're getting ready to see the motorcade leave here, we're at the JW Marriott as well. The president will head down to the Metropole Hotel and have a one-on-one summit meeting bilateral with the North Korean leader. And then there's a full day of events, including a working lunch. Really, the focus has been what the tangible things are going to be out of this summit and not Michael Cohen's back and forth.
Huh. Interesting. Does the White House seem optimistic about being able to announce something meaningful after this meeting?
Yeah, I had a number of conversations on background with a few officials. I've talked to other people who say they don't know until it happens. This is different than other summits where teams of diplomats go in and kind of iron out all the details and the minutia, and then the principals come in and just sign the paper. This has to do with the one-on-one personalities of President Trump and Kim Jong Un about what Kim is going to agree to or not, and whether the U.S. is going to hold the line on denuclearization. Everything I'm hearing is they want to define success as getting Kim to give up his nuclear weapons, to see the economic success of a place like here in Vietnam or Singapore, the site of the first summit.
That's a big ask to go into this. What are they threatening if they don't get it?
Well, I mean, that's it. What does success look like? What does failure look like? Success looks like maybe incrementally getting inspectors, getting a verifiable system in place, getting a timeline when things actually are going to happen. As you see the motorcade rolling here from the JW Marriott, the Beast there with the president inside. And it's about a 15-minute drive across town. Security is really tight, but not for these guys. And then failure looks like it just falls apart, and the maximum pressure of sanctions comes back in play. And neither party wants that. And I can tell you this, the people in Vietnam who I've talked to, the people in South Korea who we've been talking to, Greg Palcott there, really want this to work. They want this peace to happen, yes, just for the region.
So let me just ask you finally, a number of people here are saying, including the president's son, Don Jr., that everything that is playing out with Michael Cohen, these hearings in the Congress that we saw today, undermine the president's hand in these negotiations. Do you think that's true, and does the White House think that's true?
I don't think they think that. I think they think it distracts the attention. The hearings happened today. The meetings really, now it's today, it's tomorrow your time, and the summit goes all day this day here in Hanoi. So, the coverage will come back to the summit after a day of being up on Capitol Hill. Does it distract? Yes. Does it diminish? No. If they get deliverables out of this summit, anything that's substantial, history has a long view, and Michael Cohen will not be a big part of history if that happens.
No. Either way, I doubt he'll be a chapter. Bret Baier, live from Hanoi. Thank you very much for that.
See you, Tucker.
So what can we realistically expect out of the summit we're watching tonight in Hanoi? Harry Kazianis is Director of Korean Studies at the Center for the National Interest, and he joins us tonight. Harry, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So give us the overview of what the object of this meeting is.
Well, Tucker, I think we have to really think about how this has changed in terms of what the White House was saying back in 2017 and today. Everything was about denuclearization. And I think that's still a big point. But what the president has been doing in sort of foreshadowing on Twitter and all his statements is talking about peace. And we have to think about this. How do we incent Kim Jong Un to give up his nuclear weapons? I think there's only one way to do that, is to end the Korean War. I think what you're going to see today is both parties signing an end of war declaration that formally ends this. And I think what that'll do is that'll allow Donald Trump to say, Kim Jong Un, we're no longer enemies anymore. I'm not a threat. I'm not going to invoke regime change on you. Now you are able to release your nuclear weapons. And at least we'll know at that point if Kim is actually serious about doing this. And I think that's what we're going to see. There are a couple other things, but I think that's the biggest thing.
Ending the war after 65 years. What are the tangible consequences of being at war as a diplomatic matter with North Korea? I mean, will it improve life for North Korea if the war officially ends?
Well, think about it this way. Kim Jong Un would be able to go back to Pyongyang. He'd be able to talk to his generals, the party cadre around him, and say, look, we are no longer enemies anymore. For once, I feel like I can trust the United States. I feel like we have a relationship. It changes the whole dynamic of this relationship. If there's not a war, Kim can actually go to his people and say, you know what? We don't need to invest billions of dollars in nuclear weapons anymore. And at least we can start the process to denuclearize. And that's important. It gives him that opportunity.
It's always been said that China is the pivotal unspoken player in all this. What's their position? What do they want out of it?
Well, I think China is probably concerned that actually Kim Jong Un may actually start moving closer to Seoul in the United States. Because remember, China uses North Korea as a buffer against Seoul and against U.S. forces that are actually in Korea. So the Chinese are very worried that someday that there would be reunification. And let me tell you something, a reunified South Korea would have trillions of dollars of minerals. Seoul would actually have a very cheap and entrepreneurial labor force to actually rebuild. Seoul would be a power. They would be a powerhouse, and China does not want that. So I'm a little worried about China's motives here.
So you believe that the government of South Korea would like to reunify the country?
Eventually, yeah. I mean, they have unification ministries. They have scholars on staff that are researching this and trying to figure this out. And I think someday it will happen. We may even see it in our lifetime.
What do you think the president will announce when this is over?
I think there's a few things. I think a peace declaration that'll end the war. I think we're going to see that. I think there's going to be liaison offices. And that's critically important here. I know a lot of people have downed that, Tucker, and said, oh, it's a concession. You're giving something up to the North Koreans. Well, Tucker, I've never heard of talking as being a concession. That's what the neoconservatives say, and I think it's garbage, to be honest with you. Think about it if we had a Cuban Missile Crisis and we weren't able to talk to the Soviets and work our way through that and have ambassadors. We need to be able to talk to our adversaries. So I think that's important. I think what you're also going to see is the full closure of the Yongbyon nuclear facility, which is actually the flagship facility of North Korea's nuclear program. Some people have said it's older, it's breaking down, but it actually helps the North Koreans build hydrogen bombs. So I think that's a key component. And we're probably going to see a big announcement in terms of U.S. and North Korean teams actually going on the ground to battlefields where the Korean War happened and doing excavation work and working together. Those people-to-people ties, they're important.
Will North Korea have in some way to atone for, apologize for, make good for the many misdeeds it's committed? Killing Otto Warmbier, the UVA student, for example, kidnapping Japanese citizens, running concentration camps. Will they have to acknowledge we did this, do you think?
I think they have to. I mean, I think they understand, and I think Kim Jong Un realizes that there's going to be a limit to how far the United States can go. Denuclearization is important. Lessening tensions is important. But let's face it, the North Koreans cannot be a regime that's a human rights monster. There's no way that the United States or Donald Trump is going to be able to go back to the American public with all this great news if the North Koreans aren't willing to change at least a little. And I think that's going to happen slowly. It might take years, but I think Kim gets that.
And let me just end by asking you the question that I just asked Bret Baier in Hanoi. Do you think that domestic politics, the attacks on Trump by Michael Cohen today, affect the president's ability to negotiate this deal with North Korea?
No. And the reason I say that is I think Donald Trump understands that this is the time to make history. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to end the Korean War and actually have peace. Because this is the thing, Tucker. We sat here in 2017, and let me tell you, we came close to nuclear war. I think the president's going to have blinders on, and I think he's going to bring this home.
Interesting. Harry, thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Great to see you.